Part 96. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 955. Black Disk Domain. Black Pan Academy Headquarters. How is the situation now? Dean Cruz von Sawa quietly looked at the three-dimensional model of the planet suspended and flashing in front of him. There were patches of scarlet spreading on the white model's surface. The human hunting wave has reached the end of the first phase. It is expected to end soon, and there are still 3 years to enter the second phase. If we want to find the core of the taboo, we only have this gap period in between. The other two professors each flashed virtual images in their own positions, and one of them, Vice Dean Symes, whispered. "Your disciple is still training outside, so you're not afraid of something happening to her." The old woman Baba looked at Symes. "There is also that old guy who is not willing to be lonely. He actually led a team to take action a few days ago. He is not afraid of being laughed at if word spreads. One of the 3 Black Disk professors actually led a team to arrest 2 people under 30. A year-old baby. Didn't the Dean's Black Star also go? Who wouldn't want to get that thing at such a critical time?" Simi sneered. "Apart from the Chief Dean, there are 3 of them professors. However, among the 3 professors, only 2 of them are eligible to run for the position of Dean. The other one is weak and unwilling to be left alone, and now he takes the initiative to find him. The taboo was at its core, and it was not reported to the Academy in advance, which shocked both of them. There is a gap period between the waves of human hunting. It is not just our college that knows about it. The other colleges will definitely send manpower. The fluctuations in the positioning of the planet detector indicate that location. The Central College is likely to intervene this time," Chief Dean Sawa whispered. "She looks like an ordinary middle-aged woman, no one would imagine that she is over 200 years old. Maybe it will be fun if we meet one." Baba laughed. "Humph," Simi snorted coldly. Among the 3 people he sent, the one with the weakest gestures was the only one led by Metro, so the situation was naturally the most unfavorable to him. He glanced at Chief Dean Sawa. "Black Star, the disciple sent by this old guy, is now unfathomable in strength. A few years ago, he was only weaker than the old professors. Now he doesn't know what level he has reached." Looking at the old guy's calm face, "I'm afraid." Thinking of this, he felt frustrated. He was also a disciple. At first, Metro and Black Star had similar qualifications, but he was far inferior to Sharapova. Black Star's strength has far surpassed Metro and reached a powerful pervert. The point. Is this the reason why I didn't compete for the position of Dean back then? Diddy. Suddenly there was an electronic sound in the hall. "What's the matter?" Baba asked in a low voice, dissatisfied. A soft electronic female voice whispered. 3 Deans, the latest news from the intelligence department." As the sound came, a white homing pigeon flew out of nowhere and slowly landed on Dean Sawa's shoulder. With a bang, the white homing pigeon exploded into a cloud of white powder, then automatically reorganized in the air and turned into a piece of white letterhead paper, which landed gently on Sharapova's open palm. After just one glance, Sawa threw out the letter and let it fly to the hands of the other 2 people. The 2 of them looked at each other, and their expressions changed slightly. "Central College, someone is here," Baba whispered, looking a little solemn. "As the leader of the Academy Alliance, it's obvious that they haven't responded yet." Simis nodded. "I'm surprised that they actually sent Rin. That is their strongest elite organizational force. Based on Black Star and the others, I'm afraid. Baba just thought that the force sent by the Chief Dean was too strong, but now she is worried that it is too weak and will be suppressed by the Central Academy." "It doesn't matter," Sharapova said with a calm expression, "let them practice it. The core can strive to be the best. You can't and don't force it." The letter flew back into her hand, shattered into a large amount of white powder and disappeared into the air. "This old guy speaks lightly. The other two people cursed secretly. Which one from Rian is here? Symes asked. I don't know the specifics, the electronic female voice replied in a low voice, but according to the analysis of the intelligence department, the most likely team is led by Rian Whale Hark. It's really troublesome. The hunting harpoon is always known for its strength and attack range, and its clearing effect is terrifying. Symes frowned. Don't worry. It's inevitable to encounter situations like this when you're on a mission. Sharapova shook her head. Okay, that's it for today. Let's break up the meeting. He spread out and disappeared on the projection table. We must support, Symes said firmly. The question is who to photograph. Baba shook his head slightly. We can't compare with Central College. Then ask Luoyang Domain and others. The Central Academy is too strong. Only by uniting can we fight against it. Symes snorted coldly. This is the territory of our four major domains. We can temporarily cease the war with Baiguang. That's fine, Baba agreed. Whoosh. Several white mechas with twisted waves flashed past the blue sky, forming a natural herringbone formation, with blue flames spraying out from behind. The leading white mecha has its arms folded across its chest, with a long, lizard-like spiked tail behind it, and a green rhombus crystal inlaid on its forehead. It looks mysterious and powerful. The other white mechas are actually the great bright mechas of Ishui. All of them are actually the most powerful heritage-level pilots of the White Light organization. In the white mechanical base below, the White Light personnel working raised their heads and looked at the mechas flashing across the sky. Good boy. What a huge formation! A worker in white overalls who was tightening screws couldn't help but sigh. The 6 great lights, even the Lord of Light, are dispatched. Do your job well. We are not qualified to know the things above. Another foreman came over and patted him on the shoulder. Looking at their direction, they seem to be preparing to go out to the radiation belt. It seems that there is going to be another war. The foreman sighed, turned around and continued patrolling. Outer space. In the dark starry sky, a silver metal aircraft like a hedgehog was slowly rotating around the mother star, with silvery lights flashing from time to time. On the side of the aircraft, a pop-up metal plate is projecting the ground conditions of the mother planet below. The image of the entire mother star continued to rotate slightly on the metal plate, and a small red dot shone clearly on it. This dot was continuously spreading toward the surroundings with faint ripples like water ripples. The location of the dot is the 7th ruins that Klin and others entered. Ability space. Garen delicately pushed away the pregnancy ball in his hand. A trace of fatigue flashed across his brows. Seeing that the new and well-cultivated Wild Wolf energy weapon mark has been formed in the nurturing ball, a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Yes, this is the 5th energy mark you have successfully made this week. Mingjia nodded and smiled. He has always had a dead face that was indifferent and rejected people thousands of miles away, but with Garen step by step in front of the results, I gradually began to smile more and more. This made Garen, who had obviously lost his strength, know that he might have gone too far. Reaching out to open the breeding ball cultivated by Garen, Mingjia gently took out the energy device mark from inside. As a novice weapon master, Garen, you have already done a good enough job. At least in all the years I have been a weapon master, I have only met a dozen geniuses at the same level as you. More than a dozen. Garen was slightly frightened. He had gained such terrifying calculation power by adding some intelligence, but others did not have such good conditions. Even so, there were still more than a dozen who could compete with him. The water for this mechanist is not as deep as usual. Yes, when my teacher's shop was at its most prosperous, I only saw 1 or 2 a year. Not to mention now, you are the only one who has been there for so many years, Mingjia said with emotion. Our point is just a small virtual point in the supernatural space. Your talents should not be buried here. You should go to a larger place to show your talents. I originally planned to keep you here and join us. But now, I know that keeping you here will only delay you, Mingjia said sincerely. After patting the family on the shoulder and getting along for a while, the two of them have become quite familiar with each other, and these small actions seem very natural. Come with me, I'll tell you the real side of the supernatural space. As a novice he turned and walked out of the laboratory. The real side. Garen narrowed his eyes and followed closely. The two of them walked along the corridor deeper in tandem. As they walked, Minga spoke in a low voice. The superpower space is a huge overall space that is composed of space points one by one. The space point is the basic unit of the entire superpower space. Ours is the smallest space point level, and there are more above. Advanced virtual space points, and even the highest real space points. Real space point. Yes, the simple meaning is that space has actually broken away from the category of the virtual network and has become a real huge dimensional space that can be lived in. Everything in it is real. If you want to enter, you must join the body enters together. Unlike virtual points like ours, which only need to enter the spirit. Mingjia nodded and continued walking forward. There is actually a real supernatural space where people can live. Garen was a little shocked. This is equivalent to the technology that turns virtuality into reality. Only those who truly understand the difficulty of this will understand how terrifying the technology required is. Yes. In history, two of the strongest energy weapon masters in history discovered this strange space, then transformed and modified it, and finally formed a special space unique to us energy weapon masters, superpowers. Mingjia quickly walked through the corridor and entered a corridor flanked by a fountain and pool. Similarly, apart from us, pilots also have a space that is completely their own. You will know this later. Let's not talk about it here. To put it simply, you can start from any point covered by the supernatural space, no matter it is any virtual point. You can enter the real point at any time, which is the real place of the supernatural space. Getting to the real point. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 956. Yes, this is also the key to what I'm telling you. Minga nodded, and finally came to a white door with a silver bat handle, and gently pushed the door open. Inside is a screen of pure white light, with nothing visible. This is the door to the real point. It is the transfer point to one of the three main cities in the supernatural space. Once you enter, your spirit and body will enter that space together, Mingjia said lightly. How big are the three main cities? Garen asked slightly curiously. It's very big. Each main city is almost as big as a domain on the home planet. Not all the people living in it are mechanics, there are also aborigines. Many of these aborigines make a living by serving mechanics. You go in and you know what's going on. Why do you want to help me enter the main city? It must be expensive, right? Garen asked. That's for sure, the cost is indeed a bit high, but I also have selfish motives, Mingjia said calmly. My teacher is seriously ill in bed, and my senior sisters are unable to shoulder the burden. Keeping you here will only delay you. For your future, I might as well send you to a better stage. Maybe in the future you will reach a higher place and come back to help us a little, which is my only hope. He smiled bitterly. We as a people, a small sect, no matter how small it is still registered. There are 2 recommended places every year, so you don't have to use them in vain. Before you, I have recommended no less than 10 people to the main city, and I also have such expectations. You are just casting a net to catch fish. Garen also shook his head speechlessly. There's no way, we can't sustain this point any longer. Maybe it won't be long before our point will completely collapse and disappear. My junior sister and I will also leave here. So I'll just send you out in advance while there are still places. Mingjia confessed. Garen can also understand that during this period of time, he was working here. Although he created the mark of the wild wolf, fewer and fewer people came into the store. This is not something he can save now. This place will collapse soon, and we will leave. If you are going to the main city, You'd better notify me in advance, Mingjia finally said. Which city is it? Garen remembered that there are 3 major cities in the mechanic space, on the home planet. This leads directly to the capital of Nagateko, which is also the main city of the central city. It is the most prosperous place, Mingjia answered. There are the largest and most complete energy machine imprints there, and it is also where the largest self-transforming energy machine technology lies. Self-transformation. Well, it's about transforming yourself. Human body modification is illegal for other people, but no one cares about you when you transform yourself. Nagateko City is very good at this. Because the most powerful city master in history, the city lords, are Naga weapon masters with 2 heads and snake tails. They have transformed their normal human bodies to the pinnacle. Even without the use of biochemical cannon fodder and elite units from the test bed, their own strength is strong enough. He turned to look at Garen. I think you seem to be taking this path of transforming yourself, so going to Nagateko capital is your best choice. What do you think? Garen was silent for a moment. That's true, a senior energy weapon master like Xiran Mingjia could also see the changes in him. If you want to leave, just tell me in advance so that I can prepare the application, Mingjia finally said. Yes, I will, Garen nodded. In fact, he knew that he would definitely leave, but it just depends on when. After all, the radiation belt is not a place to stay for a long time, and he has not found Klingberin and the others, so he can only having given up. The question now is how to resettle Dongpilan and the others. Can people be brought into the real space of the main city? He asked. Yes, but it's not what you and I can afford now. Only top masters can afford this kind of consumption. Mingjia showed a smile. If someone wants to take it away, I can't solve it. To be honest, I'm in a radiation belt now. Several of my subordinates have left me, and my future survival will be. Garen didn't finish his words, and Mingjia could guess the meaning behind. The radiation belt contains the hidden domain of energy masters, don't you know? He was slightly surprised. You are not the only one who has a subordinate of a radioactive person. Many of our energy mechanics deal with radiation, and there are also many people who have a subordinate of a radioactive person. Although they cannot be brought into the domain, there is a separate place near the domain to house these people. This kind of people can be regarded as followers. In the future, when they reach high-level energy masters and have advanced biochemical pools, they can get rid of the radiation sickness on their bodies. Although the cost is not small, it is better than having no hope at all, right? Is there such a place? Garen also heard about it for the first time. Yes, otherwise you think that the technology to prevent radiation sickness in other domains comes from us. Biochemists and the like might have been fine thousands of years ago, but now, Jia seemed very unhappy with the biochemist and sneered. Are there any conditions required to bring someone in? No need, as long as you prove that you are an energy weapon master. By the way, if you can establish some military merit there, it will be of great help to you in the way of actual combat as an energy weapon master. If you can get to know some other energy weapon masters, that's the best. Humans are social creatures after all. If you shut yourself up and think hard without communicating, you won't be able to reach a higher place. That's right, Garen agreed. Although he felt that Mingjia's suggestion had some profound meaning, his main concern now was to resettle Dongpilan and others. At the same time, he also had to go to other places to carefully inquire whether the information Mingjia said was true or not. After leaving Mingjia's PowerPoint, Jialong went directly to the other 2 nearest points. There was a lot of traffic inside. Of course, compared to Mingjia's Kiko energy equipment shop, Jialong was also working during this period after all. He still made some crystal stones on hand, and spent some crystal stones as inquiry fees. He successively found several people to inquire about the details of the news Mingjia said. From the mouths of these people, he learned that Mingjia did not lie to him, and everything he said was the truth. There are indeed gathering points for Radiant Man followers in the surrounding radiation belts, but each energy mechanic can only bring 2 people in according to their level. In other words, he is now a level 3 energy weapon master and can bring 6 people in. There are 6 places. The total people in the base are Dongpilan, Xingyo, Feel, Milong, plus 2 children, that is 6 people. There are 2 remaining adults, Bail and Shangla. That's 8 people. Unless he can reach level 4, there is no way to bring them all in. This is something Minga did not mention. One of the energy masters who seemed to be more generous with his money also gave Garen an extra piece of news. After learning that he was deep in the radiation belt, the energy master reminded him that the major domains had unprecedentedly reached the 1st or 2nd level. During the break between the outbreaks of the wave hunting, I sent a master out and asked him to be careful if he didn't know what to do. It is said that we are looking for some kind of core. Now it is spreading everywhere. Tisk, it can be competed by so many foreign masters. This thing is not ordinary strong, these were the exact words of the energy weapon master. I heard that some experts have arrived at the number 7 ruins. Garen immediately thought of the mysterious Chiyu next to Burin Kellen. Reminiscing about the series of major events that happened before, they all seem to be constantly fluctuating around Klin and others, and it is even more so now. If he guessed correctly, the core of the taboo is definitely related to Chiyu, and these masters have gone out one after another. The whereabouts of Chiyu and others were discovered. He has been to Ruin No 7, a place that is strange, mysterious, and extremely dangerous. But now he has not avenged the 7th Wind God General, as well as Fira and the prophet-seeking teacher Fan Duo. The remaining consciousness in his body has not been eliminated, and with such a small number of big bad wolves, there is nothing he can do. People from the 4 major domains and Baiguang, as well as people from the Central Academy, also came. All the experts gathered together and seemed to have determined that there must be something they need in the number 7 ruins. After some consideration, he decided to send Dongpilan and others to the base of the secret energy weapon master first, and then leave to develop in the main city. Otherwise, he would stay in this small place and not be able to contact more advanced energy weapon masters. Knowledge. Now he feels more and more that there is a complete system for training and education for energy mechanics. It is not something that an individual like him can compare with. If he can receive formal education, coupled with his conditions and advantages, he will definitely be able to achieve it. Higher altitude. After all, he is a monster who can improve his intelligence and computing power through potential points. Most people's intelligence has its limits. No matter how hard they exercise, they still have innate fertility restrictions and physical bottlenecks. But if Garen can find more potential if you click, you will definitely be able to break through the limits. After making up his mind, Garen got the map to the hidden spot from Mingjia. At the same time, he also began to let Dongpilan and others go out to patrol farther places to check the flow patterns of human hunters. Although the last attack by a small group of human hunters not long ago was repelled by Dongpilan and others who had greatly increased their strength, which fully demonstrated their strength. But this time it was different. He wanted to take these people to a farther place, at least hundreds of kilometers away. The degree of danger was different from before. Must plan well. What? You're not leaving? Garen frowned and stared at Dongpilan in front of him. It was obvious that this woman represented everyone else's opinions. Yes, we don't want to leave here. With the big bad wolf here, we can definitely stick to this place. With the training method, we can communicate with each other and there is hope for improvement. This place is secretive and suitable for living. There are many small plant cultivation plants transplanted by the old man. The fish are also starting to cycle. We can definitely live well here. Dongpilan said firmly. There will be a second stage of human hunting later, Garen said in a low voice. I know, but there is a basement and we are undergoing renovation work. It doesn't matter if we stay underground all the time. Just stock up on food in advance, Dongpi Lan answered with unusual certainty, obviously thinking about it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 957. Store food in advance. To put it lightly, have you carefully calculated the food you need? And how long will the human hunting outbreak in the sky last? Do you know? The big bad wolf will no longer have the opportunity to replenish it after I leave. You will lose one end at a time. With such little strength, do you dare to say that you can be safe and sound? Garen frowned. It doesn't matter, we have calculated it. If the food is properly stored, we can sustain it for more than a year. Dongpi Lan nodded, with a ruthless look in his eyes. If it doesn't work, we have a backup plan. What can we do? Garen narrowed his eyes. After our current physique has been transformed, we can eat even the meat hunted by humans, Dongpi Lan said in a low voice. Garen was slightly silent, but he could understand that everything in the wild was now eaten by manhunters. Once food was insufficient, the only source of food was manhunters themselves. In the radiation belt, such cases of cannibalism are not uncommon, not to mention that human hunting has long ceased to belong to the category of human beings. Are you worried about exercise methods and exercise techniques? He asked. Yes, Dongpi Lan nodded fiercely, the things you gave us are too precious. Once people like us are discovered, we may be more dangerous than in the wild. And the radiation concentration here is very high, and ordinary people can't come. It's us, the best natural barrier can completely block the prying eyes of outsiders. Garen thought about it carefully. He didn't care about other people, but Dongpi Lan had saved him. This relationship would never be completely put aside. Her options must be carefully considered. He asked about the arrangements and plans of Dongpi Lan and others here, the breeding situation, etc. After careful calculation, they might actually be able to survive here, provided there are no unexpected changes. Now that you have decided, I will not stop you, but I will definitely leave. You have to understand this, Garen whispered. We know this. From the time you showed up in our lion town, I knew you wouldn't be able to stay forever. Dongpi Lan nodded. Xingyo can follow me. Her transformation has not been completed yet. Of course, this depends on her own wishes. The transformation has been successful so far. She has strong radiation resistance. But if the transformation continues, more problems will appear. Big risk. I have no objection. Xingyo slowly walked in from the door, and other people gradually appeared at the door. Obviously everyone has arrived. This is a critical moment to decide the direction of future development. Garen's departure is very serious. Major event, which means that they must try to rely on their own strength to protect themselves in the future, rather than relying on the number of big bad wolves. Of course, 30 big wild wolves are enough for them to protect themselves for a period of time, and there is no pressure when encountering a small group of people hunting. Garen had long heard their voices outside. He glanced at everyone and nodded slowly. Now that you've all reached an agreement, so do I. Boom. Suddenly, there was a thunderous roar in the distance, and the entire mountain seemed to shake violently. Ah! A harsh sound wave, like a scream, penetrated from far to near, penetrated the underground rock formations of the mountain, and penetrated into everyone's ears. In an instant, everyone's faces showed pain. A burst of vague music sounded in the air, as if many people were singing psalms or singing sacred songs. Dense layers of harmonies kept coming, disappearing, and appearing. Garen's expression changed slightly, and he rushed forward and knocked everyone to the ground one by one. Sure enough, once they fainted, everyone's expressions quickly became much more normal. This kind of sound was simply a mental attack. He rushed out of the basement on his own, passed through the third and second floors as quickly as possible, and jumped out from the exit. Call. The wind sings and the high-pitched roar of warships shuttles overhead in the sky. The dazzling white light rushed towards the face, and what caught the eye was a bunch of transparent illusory trees in 7 colors in the distance, slowly growing and extending towards the sky, and the layers of singing seemed to come from there. The big tree looked thousands of meters tall from a distance, and its thick trunk was constantly flowing with illusory translucent colored energy liquid. It is surrounded by a large number of mecha dots that are even smaller than ants. Some of the energy fluctuations erupted between these mechas were about the size of a fingernail from a distance. From time to time, small dots of mechas exploded and fell from the sky. Battleships further away flew densely towards the giant tree, and more densely packed mechas were swarming out of the battleships. At a glance, there were actually thousands of them, almost covering the entire sky. What a big scene! Garen took a slight breath and looked at the past. The battle situation was divided into 3 parts, the black and white logo, the gold line logo, and the completely silver force. The mecha battleships of the Black Disk and the battleship mechas of the Aurora domain both show a black and white circular pattern. The black and white logo on their bodies represents a force. The combined fleets of the Maria domain and the Luia domain have gray mixed with golden lines flowing on the surface of the battleships and mechas. Faintly standing among them was a powerful mecha with white light. The golden thread is what characterizes them. There is also a force that is covered in silver. Whether it is a mecha or a battleship, the cannon barrels on its body are much larger than the others. One humanoid mecha alone has no less than dozens of thick cannon barrels, and it looks ferocious. Spikes. Behind the first mecha, a silver disc was slowly rotating. It was full of various sophisticated mechanical structures, and it was unknown what their purpose was. The most bizarre thing is that the mechas of this force are generally larger than the mechas of the 2 combined forces. It seems to have an inexplicable and strange aura. The power situation of the 3 major forces is very strange. Black Disk Laser and Maria Roto seem to have only sent ordinary pilots to fight and consume, while the real masters are still waiting and watching, and there is no big move between them. The silver forces were also motionless. Although they had the smallest number, only a few hundred, they seemed to be valued by everyone. Garen looked up at the sky in the distance. Mechas fell to each other and exploded. The yellow-red flames bloomed like small flowers blooming in the sky. Subtle explosions could be heard faintly, but more of them were like bursts of the thunderous rumble was the infrasonic vibration caused by the confluence of a large number of explosions. In the sky, hundreds of mechas and dozens of huge battleships were shooting at each other, and the battle was entangled. Under the blue sky and white clouds, from time to time black missiles like meteors shot down from the air, leaving holes and deep craters of varying sizes on the ground. The white laser beams flashed and disappeared one after another, as if they appeared in an instant. The sharp sword was extinguished in an instant. Only a small amount of laser beam will last for a while, first slowly becoming thicker and brighter, and then gradually becoming thinner and dimming. Garen stood on the edge of the mountain top. From time to time, dark battleships broke out of the clouds in the sky above him and flew towards the battlefield at high speeds. A large number of dense mechas for support also flew out of the battleships. Looking up at the sky, there was no place in the sky without mechas and warships. The entire sky was slightly dim, and even the light was obscured by these war machines. No one paid attention to the hill below, let alone a little man on the top of the mountain. Garen stood on the edge of the mountain and looked at the battlefield. The 3 major forces seemed to be negotiating something. After a while, the colorful giant tree slowly started to move, and its branches were waving in all directions. There seems to be something new happening. The people from the 3 major forces suddenly became excited. From a distance, Garen saw a mecha from the Silver Force flying straight towards the other 2 coalition forces. Central Sun Flame, Whale Hunting, a deafening low roar erupted from the mecha. Maria, Zero Gun, a slender and soft white female mecha flew out from Jinxie and Feng. What didn't match her figure was that she carried a huge heavy rifle on her back that was several times longer than her body. Looks extremely contrasting. After the two machines became famous, they started fighting without any nonsense. Zero Gun bursts out golden rays from time to time. The weird thing about these rays is that they can actually turn by themselves at extremely fast speeds. Looking from a distance, they look like golden worms, twisting and trying to pierce into the body of the silver mecha on the opposite side. The silver mecha seemed to easily repel the impact of the golden thread with a wave of his hand. Occasionally, if he took a step forward, several golden threads behind him would automatically collide and melt, approaching step by step, while Zero Gun was easily defeated step by step, forced to retreat and fly backwards. So strong Garen looked at it from a distance. At such a distance, even the mechas were just small dots, and the energy attacks they unleashed were as long as the palm of their hand. The ratio was astonishing. Even when Garen was standing here, he could feel a slight sense of oppression, hitting his cheek like a strong wind. Zero Gun has been suppressed. He is worthy of being a master of the Central Academy. Garen also saw the Mecha Masters of the Central Academy for the first time. These pilots gathered together at this time and seemed to be fighting crazily for some secret treasure. At this moment, a white jade-like light spot suddenly appeared from a branch of the giant tree. This light spot seemed to have stirred up a hornet's nest. The entire mecha group of the three major forces instantly lost the distinction between camps and all rushed madly towards the light spot thrown out by the giant tree. It seemed like it was some extremely powerful treasure. Even Zero Gun and the Central Academy Mecha Whale Hunter, who were still fighting just now, stopped fighting and rushed straight towards the light point. Unexpectedly, the light spot actually dodged automatically. It moved and dodged among the many mechas, but no one was able to successfully catch it. Puff! Suddenly, the giant tree spit out another white light spot, followed by a third and a fourth one. There were more and more light spots flying around, and all the experts went out to capture the light spots. Especially the inheritance level masters. Looking at them one by one from a distance, one can clearly see their characteristics. Anyone who is wrapped in an unrivaled consciousness shield and runs rampant is the inheritance level. They seem to have consciously avoided collisions with each other at the same level, but instead shuttled around in ordinary mechas, catching white light spots. Garen soon found the 7th Wind God General's mecha in the Black Disk domain. The blue spear mecha with obvious features seemed to have a mirror blue body shell like the sky. Like him, there were 3 other mechas around him. There are similar blue mechas, all of which are full of strong force fields, and the surrounding areas are cleared immediately. Apparently they are the 4 great wind god generals of the Black Annihilation section because they were all wearing the same one-shoulder cloak with a big word for wind written on it. Ha 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 ha. General Black Wind God. Let me see if you are worthy of your name. Another acquaintance of Bai Guang appeared in Garen's field of vision, Ice Dragon. His familiar accent has always been very distinctive. It was hard for Galen to forget this voice once he heard it. In other words, it was hard for anyone who heard it to forget his extremely distinctive tone. A large bright mecha in white light jumped out and headed straight for the 4 Fengshen generals. Ice Dragon. Stay out of the way, a Fengshen general rushed out, holding 2 swords and slashing across them, and fought with the Ice Dragon. 4th, don't get involved with him, one of the leaders of the Fengshen generals roared. Old 7 and 6, you guys, work together to drive that lunatic away. I'll use the resonance skill to hurry up, the 7th Wind God General said loudly. A black aura slowly appeared in his hand, gradually getting bigger and darker, and soon turned into a black air ball, suspended between his palms. The 6th Fengshen General rushed out quickly without saying much and provided close support. The single sword struck out like lightning. The terrifying force fields between the inheritance levels were constantly colliding, and the ice dragon was at a disadvantage in just an instant. Resonance skill. Ice cicada. Ha 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 ha, the ice dragon did not retreat but advanced, becoming even more fanatical and seemed to be in complete excitement and hysteria. His mechas suddenly shot out four dazzling white insect-like things. The four-pointed things automatically turned and stabbed at the two Fengshen generals. The speed was so fast that neither of them could react. They saw the thing in just a moment. The child has arrived. Sixth and fourth, don't get entangled, the leader, General Fengshen, shouted. Resonance skill. Black Dragon Sword. The seventh wind god combined the long spear in his hand with the black air and suddenly brought up a large black wind. The huge force field distorted the airflow, spun and roared out from in front of him, and then hit him crazily. The leader, Fengshen General, is on his side and behind him. Boom! Black air rolled and splashed in all directions. The leader, Fengshen, had his entire body pierced directly from behind, and the sharp spear point penetrated the cockpit from his chest. The huge force drove his whole body forward. He looked down at the tip of the gun on his chest in disbelief. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 958. Third brother, the sixth Fengshen general looked back and saw this scene, his eyes splitting. He turned around and wanted to rescue him, but his vest was hit by the ice cicada. With a click, white frost appeared all over the mecha, and his movements were much slower. At this moment, the fourth wind god general, who was still fighting at close quarters with the ice dragon, suddenly turned around and struck at the sixth wind god general's vest with his two swords. He moved extremely fast, and actually hit an ice cicada as if nothing had happened. Needless to say, it was definitely a trick played by the ice dragon and him. Clang! The sixth Fengshen general managed to raise his arms and used his armor to block the collision with the blade, avoiding the danger of the cockpit being cut off. However, he was caught off guard and one of his arms was cut off by the two knives. He fell down as if broken. String kite. The pierced third wind god will slowly and silently disintegrate, turning into a large number of black particles and dissipating. It seems that the weapons used by the seventh wind god general are also weird. At this time, the giant tree shed several more spots of white light, and a large number of mechas robbed them frantically, making the situation even more chaotic. The fourth and seventh wind gods in the sky exchanged glances with the ice dragon. Don't worry about him, it's important to grab something. The fourth wind god general whispered. The three of them spread out and shot directly towards the 3 points of light. The incident here is just a small incident among the three major forces. Not only here, but also rebellious masters appeared in the Aurora domain. Several inheritance-level masters were killed by their own masters in an unprepared situation when the force field was not fully opened. A sneak attack on a weak point, seriously injuring several people and killing them. And Black Star actually turned around and got into a group with Metro and several masters in his own domain, strolling around, seemingly extremely relaxed, which turned out to be the rebellion of this action. In an instant, more than half of the masters of the Black Disk Laser Alliance rebelled, and the situation collapsed. The battle in the sky was in chaos. On the top of the mountain, Garen narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the direction where the sixth wind god was about to fall. As soon as his heart moved, a big wild wolf slowly came out from behind and squatted down beside him. Stretching out his hand, he gently stroked the big bad wolf's head. Is he the sixth wind god? Under the giant tree, near the number 7 ruins. The wreckage of large and small mechas and warships were everywhere, scattered and falling to the ground. The craters created by the fall on the ground were also of different sizes. Some places are still burning slowly, and from time to time some explode. It seems that the power furnace exploded just now. In a large, charred pit, a dark blue humanoid mecha with a broken right arm lay quietly in the pit. Beep. The mecha's cabin opened automatically, and a human body wearing a black combat uniform and a helmet rolled out. His whole body was wrapped tightly, and there was a white wind character on his shoulder. He rolled down weakly at the bottom of the pit, seemingly unable to move at all. He managed to turn over and looked up at the complicated battle situation in the sky. His vision slowly began to blur. The physical health index dropped to 20, warning warning, the peripheral nerves are extensively damaged, the consciousness cannot control the body, and the core of consciousness is seriously damaged. Please send a rescue signal immediately. Please send a rescue signal immediately. The battle suit's built-in intelligence kept making sounds. Haha. Can't control it, he smiled softly. The severe pain in his body kept coming in waves. That sudden attack and the ice dragon's ice cicada was hit from the front. His whole body was completely severely injured. At this time, his consciousness became increasingly blurred and unclear. Warn. Warn. Please send a rescue signal immediately. Your Excellency, the 6th Fengshen General, your physical condition is very bad. Failure to receive help within half an hour will lead to permanent paralysis. The voice of the built-in intelligence keeps ringing. But he couldn't hear it anymore. The sounds in his ears seemed to be getting farther and farther away. A signal for help? Now that everyone in Black Pen and Aurora is being hunted, and he can't protect himself, who will come to save him? Can you come to his rescue? Signaling only attracts enemies. Don't be demoted. He finally raised his hand and used his last strength to press the intelligence system switch on the combat suit, completely shutting down the system, and the noisy warning sound completely disappeared. The eyelids kept sinking, getting heavier and heavier, and the light in front of him became dimmer. Finally, I found you. Faintly, he seemed to hear someone's voice. Is it an enemy? The thought flashed through him vaguely. His eyes were shaking slightly, as if someone was helping him up. Bang bang. Snap. I received a few slaps on my cheek, but I felt no pain. Still alive? Not bad. His eyelids finally closed completely, and this sentence was the last sound he heard. I don't know how long it took. Maybe 1 day, maybe 2 days, maybe longer. He woke up slightly and felt warm all over his body, as if the sun was shining on the surface of his skin. Sunshine? How could sunlight penetrate the protective clothing and shine on the skin in the radiation belt? His mind was still a little confused. You're awake. A man's voice sounded next to him. On the 3rd floor of the basement, in a single gray and black stone room, Garen put his hands in his pockets. He changed into clothes at this time, which he took off from the mecha pilots who died in the battle. The original clothes had long been worn. He was already half-clothed. Taking advantage of the chaos on the battlefield, he stripped off a few more clothes and came back. Unfortunately, there were many people like him who quietly touched the corpses. The remaining inheritance-level corpses that died in the battle were occupied by others. He is now physically damaged. The strength is too weak. It would be good to be able to bring this guy back. Looking at this guy on the hospital bed, he was wearing a close-fitting black combat uniform, with a big whirlwind on his shoulders, and his head was wrapped in a helmet. It was impossible to see what he looked like. In order to avoid misunderstanding, he didn't touch anything on this guy's body, not even his clothes. Get up and have something to eat when you wake up. Garen shook the fish soup in his hand. It had just been cooked and was still steaming and fragrant. The thick fish soup has fish meat and dissolved fish bones floating in it, giving the entire soup a light white color. The 6th wind god tried to move his arms, but there was no response. Did you save me? He asked in a low voice. Otherwise, who else? Garen shrugged and placed the fish soup on the stone table next to him. Let me introduce myself. My name is Garen. I am the newcomer who was saved by you. I offended the 7th wind god general and was almost killed. Do you remember? 6th immediately remembered that he had indeed rescued a new little genius. His name seemed to be Nono Siwa, right? He looked at Garen with doubts and wariness in his eyes. Garen smiled knowingly. No was my previous name, but now my name is Garen. Sixth was silent for a moment before nodding. I remember you. That's easy to handle, Garen laughed. Now that you have regained consciousness, is there any good way to treat yourself? You are the Wind God General, a top heritage level pilot. You should have the means, right? The smile on Garen's face couldn't be maintained. Don't you? You are the Wind God General. A top heritage level pilot? You don't even have first aid medical treatment, do you? Garen was stunned, looking at the sadly silent sixth Wind God General, and sighed slightly. You should be aware of your physical condition, right? It's very similar to me. After the residual consciousness is damaged, most of your consciousness has to be used to resist the opponent's consciousness. It will take at least a few years to recover. I know, Sixth nodded. The only thing he could move freely now was his head. My whole body's nerves are broken, my body and consciousness are separated, and most of my consciousness is still suppressed. I am a useless person now. My strength is less than half of what I was in my heyday. Garen was speechless. This guy knew everything. His situation was even worse than what he had been before. He was only injured by a little bit of consciousness released by the inheritance level at first, but this guy was completely killed by the enemy. If his consciousness were not strong enough, ordinary people would be in his state and die in a matter of minutes. Is simply a personal bomb. The remaining consciousness in his body was trying to explode him from the inside all the time, leaving him in constant pain of internal tearing. Then what are your plans now? Garen asked in a low voice. I saved you simply because you saved me back then. Tit for retaliation. Tit for tit, Sixth repeated without saying anything. Time passed slowly, and he didn't speak for a long time. His eyes were just blurry, as if he was recalling something. They won't let me go. They will definitely come here to search. It's better for you to throw me out. Otherwise, even if it's a radiation belt, you will still die, Sixth said calmly. Of course I know that a master like you will not be let off easily, unlike me before, Garen said naturally, so I plan to leave immediately. It seems that Black Disk Aurora will definitely cause chaos. You can't escape. I have my own way. The power of the domain is beyond your imagination. Even in the radiation belt, you and I can't escape. We are dead, Sixth said calmly. No, my method will definitely be able to avoid them, Garen affirmed. What do you know? You're just a little guy who hasn't even touched the barrier, Sixth sighed softly. The third master among the 5 levels of the inheritance level who never fails to level up. His abilities are beyond your imagination. No matter how we escape, we will definitely be dead. It's just a matter of time. Little guy? What qualifications do you have to say that I am a little guy? Garen laughed, but he was not angry, but the master's method cannot be leaked casually. If the other party doesn't know, he certainly doesn't know. I have lived for more than 500 years, do you think I am qualified? Sixth replied calmly. More than 500 years old, Garen was shocked. Even if he travels through several worlds now, whether he is 500 years old or not is still a problem. From this point of view, in addition to having more experience than the other person, this guy is indeed qualified to call him a little guy. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 959. Okay, even if you are over 500 years old and older than me, so what? Garen breathed out. The most important question now is, what are your plans for the future? We will not have a future. Lulu closed his eyes lightly. I advise you to leave here immediately and hide far away, or there is still a glimmer of hope. Can high radiation avoid searching? Garen suddenly asked. Sixth opened his eyes and looked at him doubtfully. Don't you feel that the environment here is different? Garen smiled. Sixth, I felt that something was indeed wrong here. The radiation concentration here far exceeded that of the outside world, at least twice as high as the outside. Garin didn't say much, just letting him quietly feel the situation here, and he went out and started packing his things. High radiation concentration can indeed isolate various signals such as manhunts to a certain extent, but this is not certain. It can only extend the time. The key now is to reach the hidden area where the energy weapon master is as soon as possible. It is a place that outsiders absolutely cannot enter. The sixth wind god general once saved his life, and it was Garin's principle to repay a favor. He could not give up and escape alone, so the most important thing now was to prepare to leave as soon as possible. This place is not close to the hidden realm. The biochemical pool was put away again, and some food was packed and placed on the two big wild wolves. Dongpi Lan and others on the upper floor of the basement are also waiting at the entrance and exit of the second floor. They have helped Garin pack some necessary equipment in advance, such as disposable toxin detection capsules, which are used to detect water sources. Whether the food was poisonous or not, and whether it was edible or not, they didn't use it when they came here, but it was just for Galleon to use here. There are also some low radiation meat and water that are the only ones in the base. These are specially ordered by Garin to be used by the sixth wind god general, but he himself has no need. Other miscellaneous little things were also packed away by everyone. "Are you really going to leave?" Dongpi Lan walked over and whispered. Garin signaled Xingyo to pick up the packed baggage and nodded. "When we set off this time, if you stay here, you must use the high radiation concentration here to hide yourself and don't expose yourself at will. The next wave of human hunting will be more violent, so be careful." "Yes, we will." Dongpi Lan nodded, and the others made a tacit agreement not to disturb the two of them. Dongpi Lan likes Garin. In fact, everyone feels it, but now they can't go with him. In fact, Dongpi Lan wanted Garin to ask her to leave with her from the bottom of her heart, but she couldn't let go of the last few people in Lion Town and her two children. She was the strongest expert here. If she left, even if there are big wild wolves here, the survival rate will be very low. However, it is the best way for them to stay here instead of leaving with Garin. After all, there are many people in that hidden area, and once their exercise skills are exposed, the consequences will be difficult to predict. If you think about it carefully, as long as it is well hidden, you can build a small self-sufficient base in the mountains and live there for several years without any problems. It will be much safer to wait until their exercise method reaches a certain limit in a few years before going out. "All right Xingyo, let's go." Garin patted Dongpi Lan on the shoulder. During this time here, he successfully used the power of Lion Town to avoid the threat of manhunting, and of course helped them survive the final battle. Fire, and all the banquets in the world have come to an end, and now it's time to leave. Xingyo picked up the bag and walked behind Garin. The two returned to the room where the sixth wind god general was lying, and placed him on a simple stretcher placed on the back of a big wild wolf. Garin and Xingyo each rode a big wild wolf. Walked towards the second floor exit of the basement. The sixth wind god general also saw this group of strange people, who were safe and sound in this highly radiated area, and was a little surprised, but the rest of the people's attention was all focused on Garin and Xingyo. The three of them rode the big bad wolves up to the second floor, and the others followed them to the second floor. When they reached the entrance to the first floor, the stone slabs in the basement were pushed upwards, and the three big bad wolves walked out one after another, with slow and steady movements. "Will you come back?" Suddenly Dongpi Lan's voice came from behind Garin. Garin waved his hand. "If it's fate." Going down the mountain, Dongpi Lan and his party stood on the top of the mountain, looking down at the three Jialong people who were slowly going down the mountain. Mei Long held Dongpi Lan's hand tightly. "He is just a passerby to us. This is just a short stop in his life. We are two different people." Mei Long sighed. He has seen too many separations and reunions in his life. He knows very well that Dongpilan, although he has excellent qualifications, his future development will only reach the top of level 5, which is the limit of the radiation belt. Without mecha, no matter how talented he is, he will not be able to break through to the resonance level. What's more, he has checked many times and found that Dongpilan's qualification limit can only reach level 5, which is the genetic limit. As for Garen's qualifications, he couldn't see through them. Although he had not checked them, the future of the Mechanic Master was known only to the Mechanic Master. Judging from Garen's various performances, level 5 would not be his end. Dongpilan looked at the three people at the foot of the mountain from a distance. The three big wild wolves could only be seen as small dots. She also felt a little melancholy, but with Garen gone, life still had to be lived, and she had to lead these last seeds of Lion Town to take root again and grow into a new and more powerful Lion Town. Phil stood behind the two of them, looking at Xingyo, who was moving forward firmly, and sighed softly. He had always regarded this girl as his sister, but now that her sister was leaving, he could no longer follow behind to protect her. Snapped. A hand patted his shoulder, and the middle-aged woman Shangela looked at him comfortingly. Xingyo will live a good life, better than us, because he follows Mr. Gallon. Phil nodded heavily, said nothing, and just sighed deeply again. As night falls, a red moon hangs in the sky, flanked by two small circles of blue and white satellites, emitting a faint light in the night sky. On the gray-black grassland, three people rode big wild wolves, running steadily in one direction of the grassland, neither fast nor slow. The three wild wolves were arranged in a herringbone formation, with Garen riding the one at the front. The sixth wind god would be tied to the stretcher with a rope to prevent it from falling, but the undulating back of the big wild wolf was not suitable for lying flat at all. Extremely uncomfortable. Xingyo followed Garen with a firm gaze, always alert to the movements around him. There are gray-black grasslands everywhere, stretching as far as the eye can see. The wind makes the grass sway from time to time, making bursts of rustling sounds. "Where do you want to go?" Sixth asked in a low voice, but the voice was clear enough for both of them to hear. "I can't say for now, but don't worry, I will do my best to protect you," Garen replied without looking back. He was not only moving forward at this time, but also making calculations as a fourth-level energy master. The big bad wolf already had the destination and direction in his mind, and he only needed to sit safely on his back. Is this a message from consciousness? Garen seemed to realize the specialness of the voice just now. Sixth nodded. This is a simple technique that can be used when the consciousness reaches the resonance level. Some people are talented and don't even need the resonance level. He carefully looked at the big bad wolf under him. "You are actually an energy master, but I took a wrong look. This is a basic reconnaissance unit that I concocted myself. How do you like it?" "Not bad, right?" Garen knew that the other party was well informed and probably knew a lot about the weapon master. "I don't know much about your profession, but I have seen some reconnaissance biological cannon fodder. Yours lasts for a long time, and as a reconnaissance unit, it is almost the same as a regular first-level combat unit." Lu nodded slightly and gave a good evaluation. Some first-level combat units, such as the more powerful poisonous bees, eagles, or leopards, may not be as fast as you. Combined with other qualities, this wolf can also be regarded as low to medium in the first level. Consider it. It's just a scout troop, which is already very good. Oh? Is it just middle or low level? Garen looked back at him. Then what counts as middle or high level? I haven't seen many. Most of the energy masters are active in their own territory, and most people won't provoke them. This group of people is notoriously difficult to deal with. They deal with radiation a lot, and they are feared by others. They generally don't want to mess with them. He will wander around at other pilots' places at will. Sixth shook his head slightly. But I heard that formal combat arms can only be produced by fourth-level weapon masters. For formal combat arms, some weapon masters take the elite route. The elites of the first-level combat arms cultivated are enough to compete with the second-level mechanics. Confrontation. Very powerful. Some who take the group route can cultivate multiple combat units and are very strong in siege and formation tactics. If the energy masters of the same level are well hidden, they can be completely invincible. Even if you can't beat them, you can just run away quietly when you see the situation is bad. Garen nodded. He had also checked this from Mingjia's internal network, but it was not as clear as Sixth's systematic account. Moreover, a large number of energy mechanics are also part-time pilots. Although they are not strong, they are not without combat strength. It is no problem to use some group influence props. Of course, those props are very expensive, but energy mechanics are not short of money. Profession Sixth calmly said. I can probably guess where you want to go. Oh. Are you going to the Hidden Realm? Garen smiled and did not deny it. In the Hidden Domain, it is indeed possible to avoid the other party's search, but the premise is that we can get there. Sixth looked up at the night sky. They're coming. Coax. A crimson meteor suddenly fell from the sky, flying fiercely in the direction of Garen and the others. The powerful and terrifying power field was so clear that Garen and Xingyo could hardly breathe even from a distance of at least several thousand meters. Legacy level again, Garen's face froze. The last scene of being suppressed by the seventh wind god general came to mind again. At this time, the situation was exactly the same as before, except that the location was changed to the grassland radiation belt. It's the fourth brother. He's still several kilometers away. He just initially sensed my direction and didn't really find me. Hurry up, the sixth wind god general shouted calmly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 960. Garen nodded fiercely and ordered the panicked big bad wolf to run forward as fast as he could. How on earth can they locate your location? He yelled without looking back. Consciousness, our Fengshen will have consciousness connected with the Black Divine Pillar. It will give us a stronger increase in power, but it will also roughly locate our position. The sixth expression remained unchanged, looking at the sky in the distance. At this time, the three of them turned to the left and quickly circled around the red meteor, gradually avoiding the direction in which the meteor was coming. Garen and Xingyo then slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did the two of them feel that their hearts were still beating violently. At that moment, Garen even felt that he might really have to use a life-saving move. During these times, in order to improve his self-protection ability, he made a unique trump card according to the standards of an energy master. But this thing is a one-time use and is useless after use. It was modified based on the Setsuna carton he used up. Although the Setsuna carton is used up, the material shell is still there, and they are all rare materials. Long found a small prop that can accumulate consciousness through the inner network of Ninmei Master. The consciousness he has accumulated for a long time has been injected into it. It is probably more than 10 times the concentration of his current consciousness. If the material of the Setsuna carton is not enough, it's strong and tough. Normal props like this would be broken long ago. But because of this, Garen reluctantly came up with a one-time explosive thing, which exploded his consciousness at once, forming a small-scale impact storm. The power should be very strong, but facing the inheritance level, he really didn't have anything on his mind. And we can only hope that the cold energy radiation emitted from the body can cover the auras of the three people and affect the judgment direction of the inheritance level to a certain extent. If the opponent really caught up with him, he probably wouldn't be able to escape death. Although once caught up, the result is likely to be death, but the sixth wind god will save him. Garen still will not give up, leaving him alone when he needs help the most. The outcome is obvious. General Fengshen also knew this, so he repeatedly asked Garen to leave him and escape. "You'd better be prepared for any life-saving tricks," Garen said without turning around. He didn't believe that the sixth wind god would have no life-saving tricks at all. "I've already used it," Sixth replied calmly. "Look at the top of your head." Garen and Xingyo immediately looked up, and were shocked to see a hemispherical black translucent shield faintly covering the heads of the three people. This layer of shield was faintly covered directly above the three people, and moved with them. Move. This isolation layer of consciousness can isolate our breath to a certain extent, but I can't hold on for long, Sixth said softly. He seemed to take everything very lightly, and no matter how big the issue was, he still seemed to have this indifferent tone. Whether he lost his most precious mecha to a pilot, was seriously injured and nearly paralyzed, or was being hunted, he could die at any time. He had almost no major mood swings, and seemed to always have such a plain appearance. "How long can it last?" Garen asked in a low voice. 20 minutes, and you have to rest for half an hour in between." "That's enough." Garen calculated the approximate distance and it should be fine. Looking up, he saw a red meteor hitting the ground in the distance. The grassland shook slightly and there was a huge roar. Garen turned around and looked at the sixth wind god general. "I have a last resort that can quickly restore your injuries, but without a mecha, the survival rate for you and me is not very good, unless you go crazy, but you are likely to transform into a physique similar to ours, and your mind will be controlled by me, if forced to do so." He brought the big bad wolf closer to Sixth and stuffed a blue mass into his left chest. "If you really can't help it, let go of the automatic protection of your heart. But at that time, you will have no way out. You must remember, don't use it unless it is absolutely necessary," Garen repeatedly warned. Sixth looked down at the thing on his chest. This thing looked like a ball of blue flesh, the size of a fist, with a blue body and slightly squirming thin blue tentacles. The strange thing was that as soon as it touched his heart, it was completely absorbed, as if it had its own consciousness. Very weird, but a very strange power. His eyes showed surprise for the first time. With his level of consciousness, he still couldn't analyze the approximate composition of this thing. And this is just from the hands of an energy master who can't even achieve resonance skills. This little guy. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of confidence in this humble kid, Garen. He originally thought that he had been betrayed by a sneak attack, his third brother was killed, and the Black Annihilation faction might be in trouble. There was no way to save the situation, and he could only wait for death. I didn't expect that there might be a turning point now. It was just good luck that he was rescued by a little guy he had rescued, and he escaped the bad luck of being caught by the enemy in the first stage. Now there seems to be hope of escaping completely. Just a third-level consciousness magician. He looked at Garen in front of him again, and finally there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Suddenly a red shadow flashed, and a group of people in front suddenly rushed out of the ground and pounced directly on the three people who were still running. Roar! Garen flicked his fingers and made several soft chi sounds. The sharp stone-hidden weapon produced by his strong physical ability accurately drove into the heads of the group of hunters, killing most of them in an instant. "It's just a group of first-level human hunters." "Don't delay," he growled, whipped out a long knife hanging next to the wild wolf, blocked the waist and slashed forward, then fiercely followed the big wild wolf's impact and slashed the beast directly in front of him. A man hunts. Xingyo also followed suit and learned to fend off Ren Xiao's attack with one knife. The three of them accelerated quickly and quickly threw away the remaining human hunters, and continued on their way without looking back. Although Garen's current Mi Wuhan Prison Peacock Kung Fu is not a frontal combat type, his original fighting skills and external skills are still there, as well as the Wan Zhen Kung that he has summarized. Simply relying on his own Mi Wu Kung Fu, if not being hit by a frontal consciousness impact, even a fifth-level pilot would die if he were attacked by him. But if he confronts his consciousness head-on, he can at best resist the impact of a level 3 pilot. The frontal combat capability brought by the 7th level Cold Hell Peacock Kung Fu is really not strong. After all, its main strategic ability is to create troops. In a world where secret martial arts are prevalent, most practitioners of the Cold Hell Peacock Kung Fu are protected targets. Ja. A burst of sharp laughter came from the front, and a light gray shadow rushed towards Garen at the front. His speed was very fast, much stronger than the average level 1 human hunter, and obviously at least level 2. This human hunter waited for the other hunters to rush out to test the situation before taking action in person. He obviously had some initial intelligence. He was dressed in grey tattered linen clothes. He seemed to be a lady with a good figure at first, but now his fingers were sharp, like sharp knives. He rolled his body in mid-air and clawed hard at Galen. If he was caught with this claw, he would be even the external armor of the 2nd level mecha must be shattered. The hardness of Garen's body is naturally not as high as that of mecha materials, but his speed cannot be compared to that of a 2nd level mecha pilot. Staring at the sharp claws in front of him, this was the first time he had personally fought with a level 1 or above human hunter. He did not rely on the big bad wolf, but relied solely on his own fighting ability and raw martial arts qualities. Eagle flow, Garen shouted in a low voice, and the most familiar move of Painting's claws exploded. His arms accurately deflected the claws from the side, and his arms bent to tightly jam the claws of the hunter. Die! With a sudden burst of force, he actually jumped up from the back of the wild wolf, knocking Ren Xiao straight into the waist and kneeling him. The knee hit Ren Xiao's waist hard, click. Amidst the violent noise, Ren Xiao opened his mouth wide in pain and could not make a sound, and his waist was almost smashed into 2 pieces. It fell heavily to the ground on the side and stopped moving. Garen fell lightly back to the wolf's back, with faint traces of blood on his knees. Although he used his hard knee to hit the side of the opponent's softest waist in the previous blow, the body of the 2nd level hunter was harder than he imagined. His right the knee is still hurt. But it also objectively tested his combat effectiveness at this time. With his own strength alone, he could quickly kill the opponent at the moment when the 2nd level hunter had no time to launch a void telepathy attack. However, once the opponent used telepathy, there might be some trouble, and as for the 3rd level human hunter, unless his physical strength is even higher and he can avoid being struck first, the skin defense surface of the 3rd level human hunter will not be able to be penetrated. Fortunately, the greatest strength of the Cold Hell Peacock Kung Fu is the recovery of physical injuries. Coupled with the help of potential points, as long as Garen does not die, he can recover from any serious injury alone, but the consciousness injury secret weapon and potential points are powerless. It seems that this is completely another level. Good technique, 6th praised from behind. Your fighting skills are already in line with everyone's standards. You don't use any more or less, you are precise and concise. Excuse me. No matter how strong your fighting skills are, it's useless if you don't have enough consciousness to break through other people's force fields, Garen replied with a smile. I heard that there are masters among the energy weapon masters who take the route of strengthening themselves. They absorb fighting masters. Once they can withstand the strengthening, their future development will be unlimited. 6th shook his head and said, of course you are also an energy weapon master, so you should also know that. Yes, I know a little bit about this, but this kind of enhancement can only be done by oneself. If it is used to transform others, it is illegal. Garen nodded. Of course, he is not worried about the transformation of Xingyo, because radioactive people have no human rights and are not protected by law. The people mentioned here are normal people without radiation. Illegal? The law depends on who makes it. Haven't you heard of a provision called special treatment? The law also has special treatment, 6th said meaningfully. Are you saying that there are provisions in the law that allow special groups of people to be transformed by other people's master mechanics? Garen asked rhetorically. That's right, this kind of thing happens everywhere, it's not surprising. But there must be very high requirements for such a selection of fighting skills, right? Xingyo, who had been silent for a long time, whispered. It's a very cruel selection. I heard that only 1 in 1,000 can be selected. All 1,000 people must be without any genetic enhancement. They are thrown into a circle and continue to fight each other. Only the last survivor can receive special treatment. Transformation 6 said calmly. What if the last 2 die together? Xingyo asked. Then wait for the next one. For a moment, the 3 of them fell into silence. Even Xingyo did not expect that there were people in this world who were more miserable than the radioactive people. Only 1 person in 1,000 people can survive. Such cruelty is obviously not allowed by law. There were no dangers along the way. After the 3 of them evaded the large group of hunting mechas and the teams of hunting mechas scattered in the sky from time to time, they soon discovered that a large number of hunting mechas began to retreat quickly, and the number of hunting mechas began to increase. More and more, the 6th judgment is that the flying manhunters are about to break out. Once the flying manhunters appear, the advantage of the mechas in the sky will instantly be reduced to 0. In order to avoid too many casualties, the mechas can only retreat quickly. And it just so happened that they took advantage of this short period of peace and finally arrived at the hidden area of the Energy Master on the map of Garen. Before they saw this domain, no one could imagine that this place would be like this. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 961. There are a large group of black flying birds floating in the sky, including eagles, gulls, and even small sparrows, or strange colorful birds. Below the large groups of birds, there are thin translucent lines connected to them. What these lines connect is a huge area of shadow at the bottom. It was a huge oval-shaped platform, like a silver metal moving castle, with several chimney-like things popping out on the side, constantly spewing out black smoke. The 3 gallons rode the big bad wolf and looked at the huge mobile castle platform in the sky in front of them. They were all a little dumbfounded and had no idea what words to use to describe this huge thing that was at least several kilometers tall. How can just a few birds carry such a big thing? Xingyo murmured. She couldn't believe it, but just a few thousand birds could actually drag such a large and terrifying castle that was at least several thousand tons. And it's also made of metal. I'm afraid there is an anti-gravity device, and the bird may just be used to guide the direction, 6th said in a low voice. This was also the first time he saw the hidden domain of the Energy Master. He glanced at Garen and noticed his chest. The previous key-like thing was glowing slightly, which was the symbol of an Energy Master. Without this thing, they would not be able to see this huge guy no matter how close they got. The entire hidden realm can only be displayed automatically when the Mechanic Master is close to it, or in other words, it has always been in a state of invisibility. Only when it is covered by the Mechanic Master's key force field can one be qualified to see this huge castle. Although you can already see it, it is actually still a long way away. This is also because the domain is too large and the weather is good today. There is no haze or cloud cover, so we can clearly see the whole picture. Okay, let's continue. Let's go, it's probably still an hour away, Garen said in a low voice. The other 2 nodded, and the 3 of them were supported by the big bad wolf to rest for a while, and continued to rush towards the huge flying castle. Damn! You're running too fast. Boom! A loud noise was accompanied by an explosion of red light. A dark blue humanoid mecha held 2 knives and slashed violently on a large hill directly in front. The red light and energy virtual attack radiated from the blade made the hills were blown to pieces, and soil and grass clippings flew into the air. Before they could splash too far in mid-air, they were quickly dissolved by the black air and turned into fly ash before disappearing. 4th Master, looking at the test results, I'm afraid they didn't run far. 6th Mazinla was seriously injured. He definitely wouldn't be able to move without help. Someone must be helping him. Not only did he rescue him from the battlefield later, and he should be taken away from the place overnight and moved around the 4th Fengshen general behind the 2 lighter blue humanoid mechas, the one on the left whispered. What suggestions do you have? The 6th has a consciousness barrier that blocks tracking, the light of transformation. His light of transformation is one of the best concealed consciousness abilities in the entire black disk domain. Even I can't track it forth. He asked with a cold snort. The consciousness band can be blocked, but other information cannot be blocked easily, the subordinate said gloomily. Breathe and bioenergy radiation don't work well in the radiation belt, 4th said coldly. The remaining consciousness will also be isolated by the barrier. It's not those conventional means, but the best possible judgment, the subordinate laughed. Sir, think about it, the flying manhunt will break out soon. At this time, even we must retreat back to the territory to concentrate. Defense, and they only have so many people. If they want to survive, there are only 2 choices. The 4th time, his eyes lit up. You're right. I relied too much on technology and forgot that the most basic inferences can still find clues. You are very good. Haha, thank you for the compliment, sir. The 4th nodded, his tone much gentler. If you want to avoid the flying manhunter, first, find a place to hide completely, conceal your aura, and fall into a deep sleep. There is a certain chance of avoiding being killed by the flying manhunter. The other way is to hide in a safer place. Be private. My lord, I see you clearly. 4th sneered. And now our people are defending all the major areas, and they are too far away from here. In a hurry, they can't choose a point too far away, they can only choose the nearest one. And there are 2 closest and safest points, both from the underground resistance. The secret points of the underground resistance have been completely closed, another subordinate said in a low voice. Oh? Is the news confirmed? SISI looked at another of his confidants. Sure, the man replied calmly. This is going to be a bit tricky. SISI sat in the cockpit and touched his chin, lost in thought. My lord, there may be another point that you have overlooked a little bit, the subordinate who spoke earlier said with a hint of smile in his tone. Oh? You mean? SISI was slightly startled. The moving castle of the mechanic? Could it be that the one who rescued him was an mechanic? It can't be such a coincidence, right? The number of mechanic is rare, at this critical time. According to our observations, there are no traces of residual footprints left on the ground, but there are many traces similar to those of wolves. Obviously, there is probably a group of wild wolf-type creatures surviving nearby. If the opponent is capable of mechanical masters, energy masters have always had many means. It is not impossible to use chips to temporarily control and tame a few wild wolves and leave them. These wild wolves are just first-level creatures, the man said with extraordinary confidence. Furthermore, according to the law just now, my subordinates observed that among the remaining wolf footprints on the ground, 3 of them went straight to the specific coordinates of the moving castle without stopping at all. This will be combined with your previous general direction induction, sir. Let's go. No matter how likely it is, go to the moving castle, 4th snorted coldly. The mecha rose from the ground, spraying blue flames from its back, causing the wind god on its shoulders to make its cloak rustle, and flew away in the direction where the 3 of Garen left. The other 2 followed closely, leaving behind only the messy remains of the vent. The huge moving castle moved slowly. Looking from a distance, you could only vaguely see it slowly floating. As the distance got closer, the close-up view of the castle gradually appeared in front of the 3 people. The silver-white walls, with complex circuit-like engraved lines, were constantly swimming with blue electric light, and occasionally there was a buzzing vibration. As we get closer, a translucent and illusory green light pillar is projected from the front under the huge volume of the moving castle. The light pillar is similar to a cylindrical cavity, as if a green stick falls vertically from the bottom of the castle, bordering the ground and serving as a connection into the castle. Device. When the three Garen were about to arrive, they could see from a distance that at least dozens of people were queuing up with more or less followers to enter the moving castle. There is a huge time countdown display on the upper section of the green light column. There are 32 minutes left, and it is still counting down. The people in the queue were all dressed in different clothes, but they all had one thing in common, that is, a master's key was clearly visible in their hands or on their bodies. There are more or less their followers standing around them. Most of the followers are neatly dressed, and many of them have good looks and figures. The male masters are mostly surrounded by extremely beautiful beauties, while the female masters are surrounded by extremely beautiful beauties. The able mechanic is surrounded by handsome men of all kinds of temperaments. What surprised Garen the most was that the eyes of most of these followers were extremely dull, giving people a sense of godless despair. Some of them even had dog-like black collars hanging around their necks. Garen's arrival was not impressive. He was accompanied by two energy masters who also rode cheetahs and lions. They got off the wolf. Garen was at the back of the queue, slowly waiting for his turn. Enter. The guy in front was a fat man. He was playing a small game console with his head down. It seemed to be a very difficult computing game. Behind the three gallons were two tall and thin men with gloomy eyes and red bracelets on their hands. They seemed to be two brothers. The wind is getting stronger and stronger, and time is slowly passing by. People are entering the columns under the moving castle one after another. Each time they enter, they have to wait for a short while, as if they are registering and checking some information. Not very fast. It was also the first time for Garen to meet other energy weapon masters in reality. At this time, he carefully observed the other people and felt that most of the energy weapon masters were dressed in various styles without any rules. The fat man in front of him looked like a wealthy businessman. He was chubby. He seemed to feel that Garen was observing him, and he turned around with a kind smile. His followers are two charming and beautiful girls. Even though they are wearing white robes, they can still faintly see their slim figures and beautiful faces. The two brothers at the back folded their arms and closed their eyes, looking arrogant and paying no attention to anyone. They do have proud capital. The consciousness fluctuations on their bodies are vaguely level 4, and the leopards and lions sitting down are both semi-mechanized elite units. They are obviously rich people with test benches. Only those who have them are different from biochemical ones. It is another necessary test bed for Chi to have the ability to deeply transform the cannon fodder creatures so that they will not disappear in a short time and can be maintained for a long time, and their combat effectiveness and various abilities will also be greatly improved. They also felt that Garen was looking at them. The one who seemed to be the elder brother of the two opened his eyes coldly, glanced at Garen, and his eyes instantly focused on the sixth wind god general lying on the back of the wild wolf, with a flash of light in his eyes. Fear. Humph, he snorted coldly and closed his eyes again, no longer paying attention. Obviously, the fluctuations in consciousness of the sixth wind god general made him extremely afraid. Garen also knew that his consciousness was too weak and that the other party would notice him if he looked at him. He stopped looking around and just stood quietly in the queue waiting to queue up. Time passed slowly, and soon two more skill masters came to line up. No one said a word. Those who came here were all here to accommodate their followers. Those who did not have followers could have left directly. You have to keep your promise. Suddenly a cold female voice came from the back of the team. A new energy mechanic is accompanied by a young girl. Her skin is dark and she looks no different from a piece of charcoal. She is just extremely voluptuous and hot. But even so, the rough skin of the black charcoal is completely disappointing. There is only the slightest bit of desire, and it is simply bizarre that a skilled mechanic is willing to accept this kind of thing as a follower. The able mechanic had a small black beard on his chin. He looked a bit like a middle-aged scribe in ancient China, with an indifferent temperament. Don't worry, I will definitely do what I promised. Faced with the girl's question, his expression remained unchanged and he answered calmly. The girl snorted coldly, as if she didn't believe it, but she could only give up. This middle-aged scribe-like weapon master only has level 3 consciousness, which is about the same as Garen. There are no cannon fodder creatures around him. He seems to have relied on other means to get here. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 962. Galondo glanced at the two men, and the middle-aged scribe turned his head and smiled at him, his expression soft and charming. After continuing to wait for a while, there were still 10 people left in front, but at this time, a huge white plesiosaur flew from the sky in the distance, with huge bat-like fleshy wings. Its whole body was white, and its elegant and slender snake-like neck gave out a clear light from time to time. Some hoarse roar. There are 5 or 6 people on the plesiosaur, all dressed in black and wearing metal black helmets on their heads, looking mysterious and unpredictable. The more than 10 meters long plesiosaur flew to the ground, shrunk automatically in a swish, turned into a ball of white and flew into the ring in the hand of the leader in the black helmet. Space Equipment, a powerful weapon master in the team, couldn't help but exclaimed in a low voice. Garen was also surprised. Space Equipment is of inheritance level among pilots and is eligible for use. Naturally, the threshold for being an able weapon master is not low. If you are not at the level of a 5th level able weapon master, you can't even think about using this thing. And even for a 5th level able weapon master, only those with deep pockets can afford it. As soon as the group came down, they didn't line up and walk directly towards the column entrance. You want to jump in line, the energy master who was jumped in front of him roared in a low voice. Get away, Black Helmet glared, and an invisible force field exploded, directly blowing one person away from the team. This force field, Garen's eyes narrowed. This force field reminded him of the telepathy force field most commonly used by second-level human hunters. The properties of the two are very similar. You guessed it right. Behind the formation of the human hunt, there are powerful weapon masters involved. The 6th wind god conveyed his consciousness. Could the tide of human hunters be weapon masters? Garen guessed. Many people have speculated this, but the home planet and even the surrounding star fields have the largest number of mechanics. This is not a world where pilots are respected. The pilot's territory is on the edge of the war zone where the Fenites are fighting. There are too many pilots there. There are many elites and top-level pilots, even king-level ones, and this is an internal area and has always been the territory of energy mechanics. So even if some people speculate that they are experimenting with radioactive people, no one wants to provoke the energy mechanics, Lou explained calmly. Our mechanics are very powerful, Garen asked slightly curiously as he still had no idea how the top pilots saw the mechanics. Very powerful, 6th shook his head slightly. It's not very strong, it's very strong. The radiation belt of your home star was created by you, not only here, but also the radiation belts of other planets and star fields. They were all your energy machines. The pilot's experimental area. Especially in the past 1,000 years, king-level pilots have fallen one after another, and the mechanic masters have become even more out of control. Without checks and balances, they have become more powerful, terrifying, and unscrupulous. Then why have I rarely seen an able mechanic before? Garen frowned. It's very simple, because this is the territory of the Academy Alliance, but it is only such a small piece of territory. Outside, the mechanic master is respected. There is no mechanic master in the caravan fleet. A mechanic master of the same level can do it equivalent to multiple pilots. There are powerful pilots who need to repair mechas and need to find skilled mechanics. Therefore, not only are the status of skilled mechanics not threatened, but a large part of the pilots will definitely protect them. This its reality, 6th calmly replied. The most powerful people on the home planet are the 10th level eternal movers, and at least half of them are closely related to the energy masters, and they are even the energy masters themselves. Eternal mover. Level 10. Garen heard about the higher level division of pilots for the first time. A pilot or an artificer will reach a level where the combat power is not affected by numbers at a certain level. After we break through the 5th level, we pass through the resonance stage and reach the 6th level. The so-called 7th level is what we call the non-falling level. This is a qualitative leap, and it will not fall, which means that in the war, whoever appears will almost never fall, and the combat power is rampant. As long as a legion has such a level, it will not be able to fight against the masters of the same level. We can only retreat. Not falling down the level is an absolutely strong master among the inheritance level. 6th patiently explained to Garen. Of course, you are only at the 3rd level now. These are too far away from you. At the 10th level, it is impossible to say that the eternal movers have a lifespan of thousands of years. The next step they take will be the king level, which is already a living myth. Living history, you have to understand that if you don't fall down, you already belong to the regional overlord. A random strike can destroy the balance of the planet and the giant battleship. The rest are too far away from us, so there is no need to think about it. Garen was silent in his heart. There is no doubt that, not to mention king level, but not falling down, he has surpassed the highest achievement he has ever achieved. Being able to be invincible in the universe without falling down has surpassed his previous peak in the totem world. The destructive power is enough to destroy giant battleships in one blow, and it is common to destroy the balance of the planet. From this point of view, Guyinduo's civilization may not necessarily be able to keep up with the horror of this world. At least it is inferior in terms of pure destructive power. Not being downgraded can destroy the ecological balance. Wouldn't it be easy to destroy all life on a planet? Galen asked rhetorically. It's very easy, but with the presence of the mechanics, they can repair the ecological balance, and even powerful mechanics can repair the planet. Generally speaking, you are not allowed to fight on the ground of the planet if you are not downgraded. They all go to outer space. Let's not talk about this. Now you know this is meaningless, just listen to the story. 6th smiled. Not falling down was his lifelong pursuit. In his eyes, it was once close at hand, but now there is no hope anymore. The little boy in front of him, even if a guy has this qualification, he doesn't know how much experience he has to go through to have this possibility. Maybe if he is lucky for more than 100 years, he can see hope. If he is unlucky, even if he can live for hundreds of years, it will be very good to enter the inheritance level. The higher the level, the greater the difficulty and the higher the level gap, which is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. While the two were talking, there was soon one person left in line in front of them, and it would be their turn soon. Whoosh! Suddenly, a red rainbow shot from the sky behind him. 6th, where do you want to go? You just left without telling your brother. Did I, as your brother, offend you in some way? A cold, murderous voice echoed in the sky. 6th and Galen's expressions changed dramatically, and they looked back to see the red rainbow flying straight towards the three of them. He actually came after me. Is he your enemy? The fat man in front turned around and saw the red rainbow with shock in his eyes. Good boy, General Feng Shen, a heritage-level master, you can really cause trouble. He rolled his eyes and moved to the left. Hurry up and go first. This is a critical moment. Walk. Garen was stunned for a moment, then grabbed Sixi with one hand and Xingyo with the other, and rushed towards the column in front without saying a word. Thank you, friend, Garen hurriedly said, I'll wait for you inside. What a joke. I have made friends with 5 of the most trouble-making people, and all of them are talented people. Haha, the fat man patted his belly weirdly and laughed honestly. With you, buddy, you are the 6th one. Garen was a little dumbfounded when he heard the next words. It was his luck to meet such a top performer, otherwise it would be really difficult. If he tried to jump in line, there would definitely be conflicts. The fat man watched the 3 gallons rushing into the column, his eyes rolling wildly. Hee, you dare to mess with a 6th level inheritance master at level 3. This guy is indeed a talent. It would be really fun if those buddies and sisters get together. They are a bunch of troublemakers, and none of them are simple things. The enemy behind the but there are not even 10,000, but there are 8,000, and they are all the masters pursued by all the major forces. What the hell, it's so ugly. We are called geniuses. Do you understand geniuses? A slender hand appeared decisively on his waist. The one on the left of the two beautiful girls who had been beside him reached out and touched him hard. There was a twist at the waist. This guy was also disguised as a follower and followed the fat man to escape. Yes, yes, genius. You are the most dazzling genius in the entire mother planet, no. You are the most dazzling genius in the entire star field. You are charming, unparalleled, unrivaled, and a peerless elite who can kill a group of people with just one fart. Others. How can a person be qualified to be compared with you? The fat man quickly said in a flattering tone. My little mouth is quite sweet, but I like it. The girl retracted her hand. That's so nice. By the way, do you want to smell my farts? A fatty was also shocked. He didn't expect that these sisters had no concerns about their image at all. What? What you just said were all lies, the girl sneered. How dare you? This, the fat man sweated. Even if this is a beautiful woman's fart, it's still a fart. Who the hell wants to smell other people's farts? But he knows that these sisters are the bosses of their word, and they will definitely do it if they say it. Want to run? Suddenly, the 4th Fengshen general behind him roared without concealment, and the aircraft rushed straight towards the green column. His eyes were cold in the cockpit. You think I can't do anything to you after you enter the teleportation cylinder? Damn it! Who the hell are you? How dare you interrupt me when I'm brewing my feelings? You don't want to live anymore, do you? The fat man decisively turned around and cursed, changing the subject. The Fengshen general was too lazy to pay attention to him. He drew out his long knife in mid-air and slashed at the fat man. Black smoke billowed from the blade, and as long as it touched it, as long as it was not protected by a heritage-level force field, it would be fatal in an instant. This is the mobile mechanics castle. It's not the back garden of your Black Oblivion sect. 4th Wind God General. A white-haired old woman appeared out of thin air behind the fat man. She opened her mouth and stuck out her tongue. The bright red tongue actually stretched and lengthened instantly. It shot out like a sharp sword and turned into a metal spike. Along with a huge inheritance-level force field, it hit the Fengshen general's sword hard. Bang! The knife and the tongue collided with each other, the blade deflected and lost its target, and was sheathed back by the Fengshen general like lightning. At his level, there was no delay in taking action and closing the hand, and he could retract and release it with ease. Inheritance-level transformation, the 4th Fengshen general said coldly. The old woman was hunched over, looking weak and half dead. She stood in front of the little fat man without saying a word. She just took out a small pale gold logo from her body and lit it up. A hexagon-like light golden pattern badge. When the 4th Wind God General saw this badge, his expression changed slightly. Sir, the two cronies behind him also arrived, and the resourceful one among them reminded softly. I know, number 4 nodded slightly. Lao Lu has been crippled. He won't be able to recover in less than 10 years. Whether or not he is killed will have little impact on the overall situation. With the masters of this family protecting him, I believe the boss will not blame me. Your Excellency is wise. 4th squinted his eyes, remained silent for a while, and looked at the old woman quietly for a moment. Through the cabin, he seemed to be able to feel the terrifying blood energy like a giant flood beast hidden under the woman's seemingly old figure. Although the opponent is weaker than him, it is not worth offending that force for the sake of Lao Lu, who does not affect the overall situation. Walk. He turned around without saying a word, led the two of them away quickly, and once again turned into a rainbow and disappeared into the distance in the sky. In the column, Garen and Sixth finally breathed a sigh of relief. They knew that it should be really safe now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 963. In a sudden situation, the little fat man came to help inexplicably, which also made Garen and the sixth and third party a little confused. Even if he has a strong background and protector, he will not offend a heritage-level master for an indifferent stranger. Inside the column, a figure wearing a black robe with his head covered stood quietly in the middle, looking at the 3 gallons coldly. Hurry up if you want to go in. There are people waiting behind you. Okay, Garen also knew that now was not the time to speak, so he nodded at the other party and took out his key. The man pointed at the 3 gallons. In an instant, there was a burst of white light, and the surrounding area was filled with dense white light. This scene lasted for less than 2 seconds. When Garen and the others came to their senses, the surroundings slowly dimmed and returned to normal light brightness. It is surrounded by huge hemispherical barriers completely wrapped in blue film. The ground is made of gray-white metal products. Hemispherical bunkers of different sizes are densely built around it. These bunkers are like tumors on the ground, with uneven heights and different sizes. 1. But the shape is a uniform black hemisphere, with different names hanging on the outside. The 3 of them took a quick look and saw that the surroundings were empty, with no one in sight, only thin blue lines occasionally passing through the sky. It's really a big deal to move purely with teleportation technology, the sixth wind god general sighed with emotion. As expected, the masters of energy are all wealthy masters. Welcome to the home of the mechanic. Please go forward and walk out of the teleportation point. You and your followers will be teleported into an automatically assigned room bunker, where you can carry out basic life and exchange. If you want to go to the battlefield to earn military merit crystals, you need to take 3 steps back. Thank you for your cooperation. This is the supervisor, the 5th star tower of the non-weapon master. A sweet and pleasant voice slowly sounded in the sky. Let's go. Garen took the lead to walk out of the place. The big bad wolf was left behind and he would run back. Xingyo struggled to pick up the 6th wind god general and followed Garen closely. The 3 of them walked 3 steps forward, and their eyes suddenly dazzled. They suddenly came to a dark hemispherical space room. The hemispherical ceiling above was made of a hard material like stone. It was also 1 meter high above the head. There was a line on the ground below. There is a secret door leading to the underground. Apparently there is another space underground. Garen went down to take a look. There were 3 rooms underground, a hall, and a bathroom. There was a quantum computer in the hall. A large black metal cabinet was installed next to the computer. As Garen walked, recently, a line of welcome words flashed on the computer screen, and the metal cabinet on the side opened automatically with a beep, and a table of fragrant dishes was delivered using a mechanical tabletop. Fish, meat, chicken, duck, vegetables, and fruits are all available. You can also freely choose various food flavors and styles you want on the computer screen. This place is nice, Liu praised slightly. Maybe you guys have to stay here for a long time. Garen also nodded in agreement. This place is indeed good. The food and drinks are completely provided by the mechanic master domain. The place where they live is also hidden enough. Even they themselves don't know which bunker they are in. The computer, there is a teleportation option, and you can directly leave and enter everything through teleportation, which is very convenient. It can also be seen from this point that most of the group of energy mechanics live at home. Staying at home and studying things is obviously their biggest hobby, otherwise this place would not be designed in this style. Most of the energy weapon masters are researchers. Of course, If you meet a transformation madman, it may be the opposite. Sixth whispered, they are the only group of energy weapon masters who like to fight. They believe that war is the only way to it, is the most fundamental driving force for biological evolution. Among energy masters, they account for almost half of the power. Garen nodded. Okay, you guys take a rest first. Xingyo will take care of sixth. I'll go check on the little fat guy who helped us first. Well, go ahead. If you can, it's best to make friends with him, sixth whispered. Garen nodded, stood in front of the computer in the basement, and selected the option to teleport out. With a snap, his eyes blurred, and he instantly returned to the platform where he had just appeared. There was still no one around. The little fat man who helped him just now seemed to be waiting for him on purpose. He was standing at the teleportation point, grinning and talking to the people around him. Seeing him appear, the little fat man immediately came forward with a smile. Jade, he held out his hand. Garen stretched out his hand and shook his hand. Thank you so much for just now, otherwise I would be in danger. It's okay. For me, it's just a matter of waiting a little longer. It's not a big deal. I appreciate all promising young people who can cause trouble, the little fat man said with a smile, so you don't have to take it to heart. You helped me, I will remember this, Garen said calmly. Leave your contact information, maybe I will help you in the future. It's boring to talk about this, the little fat man waved his hand. What I like most is making friends. My basis is that anyone who can cause trouble and survive is an elite who can definitely stand the test. Your theory is interesting, Garen smiled. Okay, let's go, don't delay, a beautiful girl next to the fat man whispered. Xiaopang seemed a little afraid of this girl and nodded quickly. Okay, I'll leave first, you can do whatever you want, he lowered his voice. Garen could tell that the other party had no intention of getting close to him, and was unwilling to give out his contact information. Helping him was just a whim, so he stopped talking and moved out of the way to let the three of them pass. Xiaopang took the two beautiful girls a few steps forward, then quickly faded away and disappeared. He was immediately teleported into the bunker and disappeared without a trace. Garen stood there and looked around. He did not see anyone else coming out. Everyone was staying in their own bunker. The entire area was silent under the blue protective film. Obviously, the bunker also had absolute sound insulation. The result is like a dead city. Standing at the teleportation point and looking around, I didn't know how many densely packed bunkers there were in the entire domain. I could see hundreds or thousands of them at a glance. Suddenly, another tall, thin, middle-aged scribe appeared, and beside him was the dark-skinned girl like coal. The two of them kept a subtle distance, not too close, not too distant, and they didn't know what the relationship was. As soon as the two of them appeared, they saw Garen at the side. The scribe smiled politely at him, then quickly took a few steps forward and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Garen observed several more energy masters who were teleported in, and each of them had followers. Many of them were obviously very worried and had gloomy expressions. They were obviously thoughtful people, but they were able to maintain their appearance on the surface. Basic etiquette, put on a mask of hypocrisy for yourself. He looked around and tried to get out of the small teleportation point, but unfortunately there was no way. The teleportation point was about 5 meters in diameter and the range was not large. As long as he walked out of this range, he would be teleported to his own body instantly. Inside the bunker, Garen did not dare to retreat haphazardly. He moved forward and just walked in circles. Retreating meant going to the war zone to earn military merit. He would not rush into the war zone recklessly without knowing the details. After being unable to obtain any more information, Garen returned to his bunker, and it was enough to just walk forward within a 5-meter radius. There is a computer in the basement of the bunker for inquiry. This computer is very wonderful. It is connected to a teleportation synthesis cabinet. As long as you select good things on the computer, as long as it does not exceed the free range of one crystal can be exchanged for close to 100% according to the general exchange rate. 100,000 Homestar Universal Points, 100,000 Universal Points, are enough for the energy masters who live here to basically feed them for several years, of course, provided they are not extravagant. Garen checked his account. The computer automatically bound it to his own account. This crystal was given to all the energy masters who entered from the 5th star tower of the hidden domain of energy masters. Except for this free crystal. Welfare, he also made some money in the store. After all, after entering the 3rd level, the value is different. The 2nd level energy mechanic is 200 crystals a week, while the 3rd level energy mechanic is 500 crystals, plus Long had just paid off the advance payment for the energy equipment imprint he owed, and now still has a balance of 300 crystals. There are still 300 crystals, which is enough. Garen directly drew out 200 crystals and put them into the computer account of the bunker that was bound to him. It may take a long time before he can enter the far reaches of the supernatural space. Come back, and the 6th wind god will need to recuperate, and can only stay here to hide from the risks outside. These 200 crystals are enough for the two of them to live here for a long, long time. After all, this is equivalent to 20 million general points outside American Samoa. Long as it is not, if you use and buy things indiscriminately, it will be enough to last for decades or even hundreds of years. You want to leave? Xingyo was silently laying down on the black leather sofa in the hall. He turned his face sideways and stared straight at Garen in front of the computer with his eyes wearing a black metal helmet. Yes, I have to find a way to improve myself as an energy mechanic. My training method can only reach level 5, and I still lack a lot of common basic things. It's too difficult for self-study on this path, Garen answered affirmatively. The hidden domain of the Mechanic Master is just a temporary resting place for him, but for 6th, it is the safest hidden stronghold. The Mechanic Master is extremely powerful, even if it is a powerful force among the pilots. In this planet it is also impossible for the domain to disobey the Energy Master. I will find an opportunity to bring you here with me, Garen said to Xingyo, but there is nothing I can do now, but if I take care of 6th here, he may be willing to give you some advice. Xingyo has always had full trust in Garen. After hearing this, she looked towards the 6th Wind God General. Along the way, she also saw that this mysterious man in the 6th was obviously very powerful. When he was intact, he even saved the mysterious Mr. Garen. In this way, in the past, in her eyes, this character was simply aloof and untouchable. Now that she has been given guidance by an opportunity, it is naturally an unprecedented opportunity. After you leave, I will still have to rely on her to take care of her. Don't worry, I will give her some guidance on this child, but you have to move faster. I can recover from my injuries in 10 years at most. I won't be able to come back during this time. I'll wait for you, 6th said calmly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 964. You can just heal yourself and leave. We don't owe anyone anything, Garen replied calmly. I only help you because you once saved me. That's different. I didn't save him completely back then, so I still owe you a debt of gratitude. 6th is a bit serious in this regard. Whatever you think, Garen turned to look at Xingyo, but if you really feel that you owe me a favor, then help me train this child. Although he does not have the gift of consciousness, his will and fighting instinct are outstanding. Hearing this, Lulu took a closer look at Xingyo for the first time. Is this your request? If I train her out, will it count as repaying your love? Yes, Garen nodded in confirmation. It is indeed difficult to deal with talents without consciousness, but as long as you are not completely isolated, other so-called talents are just an illusion. Most people can't do anything, but it doesn't mean that we at the inheritance level can't do anything. 6th Wei said proudly. In 5 years, I will have her on the path to consciousness. As soon as these words came out, not only Xingyo was stunned, but even Garen was slightly surprised. Being able to say such a certain thing means that Xingyo will definitely have the hope to break through the restrictions in the future and truly become a practitioner of consciousness. I really can, Xingyo stood up excitedly. She, who had been silent all the time, now looked red in the face and extremely excited. As long as I said yes, Sixth replied calmly. You don't need to question it, as long as you follow my instructions, I will ensure that you break the restrictions within 5 years. Okay, it's settled. Garen also smiled slightly. Compared to asking him to transform and transplant mutated organs, this path was naturally more suitable for Xingyo. He was also happy for this strong girl. Moreover, arrangements have been made for this little guy so that he can study in Central City with peace of mind. A few days later. Mechanics Domain, Follower Registration Tower. The tall black tower is surrounded by faint white clouds. Above it is a light blue shield. Outside the shield are large and dense flocks of countless flying birds that cannot be seen in number. People were coming in and out of the entrance and exit of the tower one after another. At this time, there was an exit registration office on the second floor of the tower. In front of the black wooden table, several masters were standing in front of the table, using their fingers to write their departure time and approximate followers' stay time on the virtual light screen in front of them. Garen quickly wrote down the planned stay time for his followers on the light screen, which was about 100 years. The free stay time here is 10 years, and the subsequent time requires 10 crystals to be paid every 10 years, which is equivalent to rent. However, although they did not expect that there would be rent here, the 200 crystals left for the sixth and second people were enough for them to spend. Garen finally took out his black key and stamped it on the end of the completed registration document. With a buzzing sound, a key mark was left on the light screen, and a complex wolf-shaped pattern faintly appeared on it. As for the contact place he left for, Garen directly filled in the capital of Nagateko. Brother, are you going to the Nagateko capital too? A slightly familiar voice sounded from the side. Garen looked over and saw that it was the chubby little fat man who came over at some point. There was also a white light curtain floating in front of him, with the words "Go to Nagateko capital" written on it. That's a paradise for learning the techniques of transformers. I'm very interested in transforming myself, so naturally I want to go there. Garen nodded. And you? My home is over there. I am going back to my hometown. The little fat man scratched his head and said. He changed into a red exquisite robe and wore 7 or 8 gold, silver, and jade rings on his fingers. He looked a bit like a nouveau riche country rich man. The yellow hair on the top of the head is braided into many small braids, with a bare patch in the middle and top without any hair. Let me tell you, is this your first time going to Nagateko capital? Yes. Then don't forget to visit Starcore Plaza. The little fat man licked his lips. Starcore Plaza. There are stone monuments left by the top kings there, as well as the Nilan tree left by the only Galaxy Empress in Huangdang district. The selection square under the Nilan tree is specially used to select middle and low-level people in the main city. There is an endless stream of people who are talented mechanic masters, and there are garrison personnel from many sects, big and small, there all year round. If you want to get the most formal and orthodox mechanic master education, you must join a section. The little fat man explained in a low voice. Must? Garen was slightly puzzled. I checked from the intranet information. There should be a paid library and paid tutors in Nagateko City, right? Of course there is, but how can it be possible for those skill masters who study freely to be cultivated quickly by the school? And the most important point is that only the school has the 2 most critical resources, the little fat man said mysteriously. What resources? A nearby energy mechanic who was also filling out a form also came over, looking very interested. Obviously, these things Xiaopang said are things that ordinary people don't understand very well. That's the Star Core and supporting secret techniques, Xiaopang chuckled. Star Core and supporting secret techniques. This was the first time Garen had heard of these two things. Most people don't know very well why most of the martial arts masters of the school have their own powerful abilities, and whether their own combat power or cannon fodder combat power is far superior to that of ordinary martial arts masters. Even 1 versus 3 can be easily done. Among them, secret technique is the key. What about the Star Core? The energy master next to him frowned and asked in a low voice. Star Core? That is a necessity for entering the inheritance level. Xiao Pang raised his finger and shook it. Without this, no matter how talented you are, you will not be able to enter the inheritance level of the energy master. This is a natural resource that can only be controlled by in the hands of the sect, and for the ordinary folk weapon masters, if they want to enter the inheritance level, there is only one way: choose the sect to join. He reached out and patted Garen on the shoulder. Brother, look at the immature expression on your face. Go to zooxin.com and check the information carefully. After saying that, he turned around and left, and the list in front of him had already been filled out. The energy mechanic, who also looked unclear about everything, looked at each other and Garen, and both of them obviously decided to go back and go to the heart-killing network to check for relevant information. When Garen came back from the registration tower, he did not go back to the bunker, but directly entered the supernatural space. And finally, the message he sent to Xylan through the supernatural space finally got a reply. Everything was fine with Xylan. The main family thought that she was aware of her increasing talents, so they took her away from the Black Pan territory in advance and avoided it. The chaos started later, and Nyanyo's parents and sister were also taken away by Xylan using his authority, avoiding the chaos of the current war in the Black Pan territory. It was a great blessing among misfortunes. After quickly replying a letter, Garen informed the other party of his whereabouts and told her that he was about to go to the capital of Nagadeko. Then it's time to sort out all your preparations. There are still 100 crystals on the body. There is no way to improve the secret martial arts without red malachite, so I will put it aside for now. It will take a long time to reach the 4th level as a weapon master, so there is no hope in a short time. The only thing that is better than other weapon masters now is close combat and the enhancement of marked creatures by twisted seeds. For the same creature, Garen was able to use the twisted seed to strengthen it to 3 times its original size. Everything else about him is about the same as the average mechanic master of the same level, and even far inferior to many wealthy mechanic masters. However, the ordinary cannon fodder creatures that have been strengthened 3 times are enough to upgrade the elite creatures that can only be produced as a test bed. This would give him a huge advantage. If used well, you should be able to quickly accumulate a large amount of resources. Following the little fat man's suggestion, Garen went to the website called zooxin.com, which mainly deals with assassin missions and intelligence missions. It is very easy to access through the internal network of the Ninmei Master, but the external network cannot. There was a lot of information on it, so Galleon purchased some of what he needed at a low cost, only using a dozen crystals. Everything is ready and there are no more temporary worries. Garen sent a message directly to Mingjia. More than 10 minutes later. In front of the pure white light door, Minga crossed his hands and put them into his wide sleeves, standing quietly and looking straight at Garen. Are you all ready? Well, everything is ready. When you go there, you have several ways. One is to find a way to participate in the trials and find opportunities to join the school, but this is too early for you now. The second is to find a place to work first and earn living expenses in a big city. The cost of living is very high, so you have to be mentally prepared. And once you go, it will not be easy to come back, Mingjia warned. I understand, Garen nodded. He must go. If he hangs around here, he may not be able to return to his original 5th level peak strength in a few years. If he doesn't go to a big place, he won't have more resources. Wanting to kill the 7th Wind God General and Phyla can only be wishful thinking. Then, "I wish you all the best," Minga finally whispered. He stepped aside, gently took out a pink crystal in his hand, and gently threw it into the white light door. Boom! A fierce white light swarmed out and turned into an illusory white shadow, gently swarming towards Garen in front of the door. In space, on the surface of a desolate yellowish planet, tall brown volcanoes stand on the surface of the planet. Each of these volcanoes is metallic in color and is thin and pointed. White beams of light were continuously sprayed upward from the top opening, reaching straight into the sky, like white pillars. On the ground between the dense volcanoes, large tracts of brown-yellow buildings are piled up like messy goods, irregular but dotted. Some high-rise buildings with square pillars stand tall, and there are also many buildings with sickle-shaped roofs scattered sparsely. There is also a sky above. Airships of various sizes were floating up and down, or sailing slowly. Throughout the city, white light spots were flashing everywhere. Every time the light was lit, a person disappeared or appeared. A large number of people poured out of the landing spaceship, and some also walked out of the elevator at the bottom of the volcano. As soon as they came out, they were swarmed by a large number of taxi drivers waiting on the street. Each then got into a different vehicle. On the spacious light yellow road, cars carrying passengers levitated and flew away, and new taxis were constantly added to unload the passengers who were about to leave. At the bottom of one of the metal volcanoes, inside the huge arched yellow door, the black door like a water curtain suddenly poured out a large wave of new visitors. These visitors were dressed in different clothes, much like a large number of extras walking together without changing their clothes. Some of them looked like wealthy businessmen, some looked like students, some looked like workers, some looked like soldiers and officers, some looked like housewives, and some even looked like beggars. Among them, on the left side of the crowd near the main door, was a strong young man wearing a white pilot's tights and shoulder-length black hair. The eyes between his hair were constantly carefully observing the surrounding movements. His hair covered most of his face, and he looked slovenly. As he walked along the flow of people, he was soon spotted by a taxi driver.